Good morning, everyone. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning.
Today, I'm glad that I get the opportunity to introduce our very special speaker of this FDP, Mr. Manish Kothari, sir. Mr. Manish Kothari, sir, is the managing director at the Rhino Machines Private Limited, who is involved in the manufacturing of the casting process machines. Sir is gold medalist mechanical engineering and having more than 30 years of experience in the foundry industry. Apart from the industry, sir is very good teacher also. He contributed his more numbers of years in the vocational education with the Swiss pedagogy. Sir is working for more than 2 years as the advisor, facilitator, and the coach on to a coach on the behavior change with the Impartech Indian Foundation. The Impartech is the flagship capacity building program of the United Nations, and it is promoted in the India by the Impartech India Foundation to develop innovative and internationally competitive and suitable small and medium enterprises. Sir will discuss today the importance and the use of behavior analysis for implementation of Lean Six Sigma for world class. Thank you very much, sir, for accepting our invitation. Sir, I request you to please take over the session.
Thank you, Professor Shruti, and it's a pleasure to be part of the faculty development program. So earlier I have been physically there in some of the programs, and it has always been interesting to understand how this program, this interaction between industry and academia can be useful. So I was there for some part of one of the lectures and listening to Lean Six Sigma, which is the core subject of this entire FDP, where I'm thankful that DDIT has taken this.
Sir, excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
There is one ribbon at the bottom of your slide that you can hide, sir.
Sure,
so that
sure.
entire screen will be visible for us. Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you for your input. And you can stop me or interrupt me anytime in the presentation, so don't worry. I would like it if it is more and more interactive, because I'm not talking of any special techniques, but something very simple which has come from experience and learning as I have progressed into the manufacturing industry. I've always been very much aware of Six Sigma, lean practices, Kaizen, and there are so many terminologies which have always come up when I'm dealing with my customers, because most of my customers have been working with the automotive tractor industry, and when they talk to large enterprises, global enterprises, this becomes a very important subject or a very important tool. But whenever I have been trying to understand this and try to take this into my organization, which is an MSME, small organization which has grown organically, I found a lot of challenges which come across, and have been trying to find ways how to work with that.
Hello,
so
sir. Hello. Can
yes,
I interrupt, sir?
Balaji?
Sir, your
Yes.
camera, we see your half face. Adjust your camera so that full face can be seen. Hello.
I'm speaking from my mobile, and the presentation is from my laptop.
But sir, adjust the camera. Your half face is seen, so it's not good for us, and even for recording also, sir.
I don't know. I can see myself.
Sorry to disturb you. Sorry to disturb you, sir.
Is it better now?
Slightly, sir. Again, lower part is not visible.
Let me see if I can do something. And this is also on part of the exercise. Thank you
Yes, sir. Yeah. Now it's okay.
Now it is
Okay,
better.
thank you, sir. Okay, yeah. Yes, sir.
So through my journey, as I've met a lot of people, I've seen a lot of industries across the country, globally. I always try to understand what it takes to make good world-class manufacturing. And I remember one very important instance which sat in my mind is when we were entering into a license and representation agreement with an Italian company. The owner was from the US, and he just asked me one question while I was driving on this express highway from Ahmedabad to Anand. I stay in Anand. We were driving down. So I was in my right lane, normal left lane, and he asked me this question, Manish, are you sure you can produce quality machines in with the technology which you are giving you? And that time, one car on overtook me from the left side, which is the wrong side, even though the right side was empty. And I just told him it is not that we don't know what is good quality, it's just something which comes from the way we are thinking or the way we are behaving. And quality is all coming from the the way we are driving is probably the same way as we are making the machines. So I don't know whether we will be able to give you, I can assure you that we do our best, but then it requires a lot of cultural change to reach. And I think this Lean Six Sigma has a lot of significance with that, because when we are talking of Lean Six Sigma, it's about working towards excellence, working towards quality. And that, to my mind, has a lot to do with behavioral analysis. So let me share why. So going back as an MSME, on the right was a presentation I made in 2017 as part of the. There are so many opportunities. There are unlimited opportunities for SMEs, but we have limited resources. And what you can see is a typical growth of an MSME enterprise when it starts from zero. Uh, it is after 7 to 15 years that, after having built that organization, that we start to understand now what next, how to scale up. And most of the SMEs start, for example, even if I look at myself, we start as a 1 or 2 people company, start from 7, 8 as a team, and slowly keep on organically growing. We have never had time to set up systems, and we are not coming prepared with a set of systems which may have been taught at education, which may be something which could learn from the ecosystem which was existing, and we start to learn what we can see. So everyone was running around managing things day in day out, working 12 hours. There were some people who were very focused, very quality conscious, and they have grown. But large part of the SMEs are not able to reach that level. And to grow vertically, horizontally, or to retain your team, or to be competitive enough to be excellent, I suppose Lean Six Sigma has, as a principle, has a very important role. And on the left side, when I was listening to Dr. Vinod Shekhar on 28, he identified some. So I picked up this slide, which was about challenges of implementation. Probably in the past few days, you might have heard about how to implement the tools and the methodologies, the calculations, the diagram, the fishbone diagram. But to me, as a person who has to implement this in my industry, take it from theory into practice, and actually see it working on the floor. The last one, which is lack of sustainability, is where I think one of the major challenges lies with us, because it is not natural to us. As I explained the example of driving the car on the left and working in discipline. Discipline is something which may have not come natural to us. it's the way we are. This is the way we have grown in a country. I don't say it is right or wrong, but this is actually the situation and the demand of working in a global ecosystem and the demand of being able to service global demands. We may need to look at how to make this sustainable. And I have always been striving to find, having understood the importance of Lean Sigma. I remember TPM when I was in Shriram Pistons in Ghaziabad, and they had a Japanese collaboration. And the way they were talking about uh, total productive maintenance, the manager taking charge of a machine, and the entire maintenance of the machine was taken charge by some senior person. There's a lot of systems in place. But still, I found that somewhere something was missing. The moment that pressure went away, people would not, unless there was an instruction, there was a somebody telling them what to do, things would not happen. Uh, Maybe 10% of the people were self-driven, but majority of the people were waiting for instructions. Uh, so, and I could recognize that there were the 4 or 5 elements where uh, Lean Sigma could impact on any business, whether it's a large enterprise or a small enterprise. The first, as I started in my opening remarks, is to be competitive in a global market, which means if I am not looking after the waste, if I'm not looking at the wastages which impact my efficiency or cost, as an Indian organization today, and this is very particular in today's context, where we see with the COVID changing the entire world scenario, there's an opportunity for India to get access to a larger market, but probably we are not as competitive. And Lean is one of the tools which could help us identify what are the wastes in our systems, look at some innovative approaches, and be able to compete with. So today, China is one of the benchmarks, and so I mentioned that specifically. It could be any other country. The second is having consistent quality, which is related to Six Sigma, where we are trying to shorten that spread of the diagram and try to bring the values closer and closer to whatever target we have, and how repetitive we are, how precise we are in that system. And this has not been lifted so much because our shop floor practices which we have, the habits which we have, the chalega, as we call it in Hindi, chalega attitude which we have, which is again coming from discipline. And Six Sigma is, I think, more of working in a discipline, working in processes, working in systems. And this is something which could be worked on through Six Sigma. Being reliable and being able to give price and quality together is where I think Lean Six Sigma brings it together, where we can, and LSS can impact our presence, or how we can integrate into global value, global supply chains. As Shruti has mentioned, that I have been part of the United Nations program called EMPRETEC, and their key theme is about integrating developing countries' SMEs into global value chains. So we have both the aspects, SMEs and global value chains or supply chains. So how to lift the standards of SMEs where I can supply to any multinational or any large transnational within the country and outside the country. And the last is we, in my experience, and probably you may also have seen that we have been innovating a lot in our country. We have some very excellent SMEs in our country, but somehow they have not been able to scale up. And I have been one of them who could develop and innovate some systems. But if I look at the market size which I can reach and the market size which I have reached, then I would say that I may have not taken that opportunity to the extent which I could, and I could not scale up because I don't have systems in place. My LSS is not strong enough. I don't recognize where I'm wasting my time. I'm not organizing myself. So I will not have my 5S in place. 5S is not only about material, it is also about the way I work, not in place. And all put together, LSS can definitely have impact on the global competitiveness and being part of larger supply chains and being able to take this opportunity to grow further. So this is from where I understand LSS informs. So, and when I was asked by Shrutiji that what would you talk about when you talk of world class manufacturing? So to my mind, this part of the slide, which is understanding failures, is one of the important aspects which I would like to talk about. Why we have not been successful in knowing that LSS or Lean Six Sigma is an important tool for being globally competitive. What is it that we have not been able to do that we could not succeed in implementing? So, like most of the places I have seen, the Lean Six Sigma is being implemented by force or by an order, by an instruction. So we did the same. We got inputs from um, uh, consultants, a lot of friends. They shared us documents that this is how 5S can be implemented. This is what you have to done. This you have to put up these boards, and so we had an internal resource who has done Lean Six Sigma, based out, has done her statistical quality control uh, course masters, and so we said, okay, let us try to implement 5S in our system. But it could not sustain. As long as I was standing there or somebody was standing there, people would do it, and after some time, it would fall apart. We could not sustain it. Similarly, we had to take ISO 9001. As far as getting the documentation done was concerned, we got certified. Whatever mandatory was required, we could do it. But as I've seen in many enterprises, and now it's maybe much better, but I remember 15 years ago, if I had to go into a meeting, they said, please don't come to these 3-4 days. We have to prepare documents for ISO 9000. So ISO 9001 became a mandatory mundane paper exercise rather than something which was helping us. And I saw the same happening in our enterprise, that ISO 9001 was basically helping us in uh, improving ourselves. And actually, we have taken that as a burden. It's not a tool today for most of the enterprises. It is just one. It is probably one of the criteria for how they can qualify. So it's like going to a college and getting a degree. So called an engineer. But the core purpose of ISO 9001, as I understood, was to see that enterprises are able to lift their quality standards and continuously work on lifting their quality standards rather than broadening the standards and saying, okay, we are ISO certified. So I would see there were organizations in process where they would put such a wide tolerance where even waste could be, the Lean Six Sigma part was missing. It was only ISO 9001 certification and we are done with it because it is mandatory. As far as mandatory is concerned, I would agree, but and today when we look at ISO 9001 2015, it is it has addressed this issue, and now you need to define certain objectives. There need to be some measurable outcomes which you might try to achieve while you are implementing ISO, and it brings into a much better perspective. And Lean Six Sigma is a tool which could help in implementing this ISO 9000 2015 in my perspective. So we were not so successful by force. in 2013 or so, we introduced an HR mentor because I started to understand that probably I need to get people to know why we are doing this and try to get them aligned to the purpose of lifting our excellence and implementing systems like this. So we introduced, gave some lectures, people got motivated, the curve will go up, after some time it will go down. It would not sustain. And another realization which I got is the moment we made a presentation giving all those, I call them exotic, not to reduce the LSS value, but for people who are working with in smaller enterprises, for them these are all very strong jargons, and these words become very heavy for them. If I tell, okay, we have to do a kappa, for them it is like speaking Arabic to somebody who does not, and it is very difficult for them to relate to it. And these words became larger than life, too heavy for us to absorb. And this understanding of failures was something which led me to think and take a step back and try to find out what is the other way it could be done. Why it doesn't happen? And it was in 22nd June, to be exact, in 2018, when I was introduced to this program, Empretec, as an invitee to an MSME scoping mission in the UN House. I was fortunate to be part of two UN UNIDO innovation programs where our technology was selected. And that's where I started to understand that we were doing much less than what the market size was. So that was one realization. And one very particular input which I started to, which I got from the National Director Arnab Chakravarti at that time when he was explaining about how Empretec evolved in the 1980s. And the immense research which was done by Harvard University's Professor Paul McClellan and a lot of other intellectuals with the UN over a period of 2-3 years. They, of course, have a lot of document, but there was one statement which connected to me that most of the successful entrepreneurs have failed 2.5 times. So I did not lose my heart that I could not implement Lean Six Sigma in my enterprise, a lot of different things. And there was something which connected that maybe these failures could give me a clue of how I could become successful. And Empretec is, so United Nations Conference on Trade and Development is basically talking about business and culture are two parts of the same coin. If we are looking, they go together with each other. Most of the times we are only talking about trade, and we are talking about business plans and everything. But very few, we don't talk much about how important is culture to build a business. And Empretec talks about the importance of behavioral approach, which is very well researched and documented. And so I took a chance and I said, let me understand whether this could help me implement all these practices, 5S, and build. Ultimately, the target was to become globally competitive. Ultimately, the target was to become be able to plug into global value chains or supply overseas or anywhere where we could get access to newer markets. And so I embarked on this journey. And some very important learnings was that Lean Six Sigma, of course, is for an organization, but it is again going back to individuals. And implementing Lean Six Sigma, at the center of all these implementations lies the person. And the behavior of the person would become a very key element to the success of Lean Six Sigma and therefore the enterprise. An enterprise is a summation of individuals, and every individual is an entrepreneur. There are two. So people say that entrepreneur is about doing transaction or business, what I've started to understand, entrepreneurship is a way of thinking and how you are able to detach and attach to business on a daily basis. Every transaction between two individuals requires entrepreneurial thinking, and our behaviors play a very important part. They found there are 10 competencies and 3 behaviors across each competencies, which which is called personal entrepreneurial competencies. And this set of 30 behaviors is what I have been, will go, as we go forward, we'll try to understand how these behaviors impact on implementation of Lean Six Sigma. So there are certain things which are coming from the way we behave. There are certain things which we learn. So Excel is a skill, learning Excel is a skill, grinding is a skill, welding is a skill. But to have a communication and be able to understand each other is something related to how I behave. And business is a combination of skills and behaviors. So aligning the behaviors of individuals in the enterprise with the so it was about getting people aligned to, so instead of taking it from moving from the element of force and shifting it to something which was related to their personal purpose, is how this exercise, what Empretech started to open up my mind, was for any successful enterprise or successful venture, it is when individuals in that activity align with each other and their purpose is aligned, and we start to find a common organization purpose and work towards that purpose, is when I found there was more success than failure. And most of the failures, if I go back and realize, it was all driven by instruction. It was all driven by something coming from outside. There was no ownership of the people who were implementing the Lean Six Sigma. Everything was more of, this is a framework, this is a structure. Tomorrow we have to do a kappa, or tomorrow we have to do 1S over here. It was not that they were owning that space. It was given to them. They had not taken that space. And this difference is where I found making things sustainable from a behavioral perspective was important. So going back to the basic principles of Lean Sigma, once you've understood that behaviors are an important part of implementing Lean Six Sigma. So could we look at the fundamental principles of Lean Six Sigma and relate these to the behavioral approach? So the first set of actions, which when we look at Lean or Six Sigma, is, so for example, when you talk of Gemba and we say, okay, let us walk into an enterprise and try to observe. So the initial activity of Empretech also starts from a planning cluster, and which is 3 key elements: setting a goal, seeking information, and systematic planning and monitoring. So these 3 competencies are an important element in building the framework of Lean Sigma. Or if I want to reduce something, I must know what is my target, which is my goal. To know my target, I must have information. Once I have the information, I have set the goal, then I have to plan to reach there. So these are very foundational behaviors which will come across all the tools which I have seen in Lean Six Sigma. These are very basic behavioral practices which, when get embedded, these tools implementation becomes easier. So goal setting, the essence of any organization, is crafted with this competency, right? And so if I have a mission, vision, value statement, or there would be some purpose of any exercise. So when I say that I want to go from X to X dash, or I want to increase my efficiency by 10%, I must know the baseline and whether that goal is aligned with my purpose or not. So if I see the goals divided into three different elements, one is something which is personally and meaningful to an individual, and also the enterprise, because individuals form that enterprise. So in an SME today, probably I am the owner. So probably it is my vision or mission, which if I'm able to articulate and put it together and share it with my team, that this is the enterprise vision, and this is my purpose. Everything which we do, whether we look at excellence as our key behavior. So if you look at when you talk about Swiss watch, you are talking of precision, which is excellence. When we look at 3M, it's all about discovery, continuously finding new solutions. So every enterprise will have a mix of different purposes, and once the purpose is very clear and we are able to have that as the key driver for any organization, we can uh, start to look at aligning people to that purpose. And so this setting of goal of the organization, which is personally meaningful and challenging, and plus being able to articulate those long-term goals. So whatever I have decided that I want to reach, whatever I have come together and arrived at that where I want to go. Can I make it more specific? And so Lean Six Sigma also talks about trying to find that what is it that I want to achieve, and then divide that into a smaller objective. Okay, in this 3 months, I want to go from year to year. So these goal setting divided into three parts is how the UN has put together in the program. And this coupled with information seeking, which is fundamental to our Kaizen, YY analysis, to Gemba, on all the tools which we are using. Information seeking is one of the most important behaviors today into doing any improvement. So I need to seek information. I need to understand the cycle times. I need to know the measurements. So I may seek this information from my customers, my suppliers, or try to understand what my competitors are doing, or go and sit there and do a personal research about it. Not ask somebody, but see it personally. But everything, when we look, is all about the person owning that responsibility. And information seeking is, in my opinion, one of the very, very fundamental and most important activities for Lean Six Sigma, because all the time we are implementing uh, whatever tools we are implementing, we need to collect a lot of information. And some places I may not be an expert. So what I would do is I will find somebody who can help me in collecting this information. I may take help of somebody from what I don't know. So these three behaviors, again coming from the information seeking, are at the core of Lean Six Sigma. If you're able to inculcate these behaviors in the people who are participating in this exercise, and create this habit of going inside and looking deeper, it would be very helpful in implementing Lean Six Sigma. And the third, systematic planning and monitoring, is, as we talked about, breaking. So we have an objective of 3 months, and then I start to break this down into different activities. Even when we are trying to optimize a system, if it's a machining activity, what I'm doing is actually using the first behavior of breaking down that task into small activities, and trying to understand where are the wastes coming from. And if I'm able to break them into subtasks, I can separate the process time and the waste separately. And based on this, I can revise the plans of whatever activity I'm doing. All this information which is coming in becomes a financial record. And this third behavior, which is the SPM, as we call it, systematic planning and monitoring, is where the information lies how to improve. This is one of the most less practiced behaviors in SMEs, where we take financial records and use them to make decisions. We keep financial records, but I have myself not been able to do this for a long time. And after getting into the program, I started to understand that it is not only about commercial or money transaction. Any activity which I do has a measurement, and that measurement which can impact my financial outcome of my enterprise is a financial record. A machining process extending beyond a certain time, my rejection going beyond a certain value is also financial record. And based on this financial record is how I take my improvement actions. So if I'm trying to reduce my variation or I'm trying to reduce my Six Sigma and go closer to where I want, uh, the SPM3 behavior, which is about keeping financial records and using them to make decisions, becomes very important. The stronger an enterprise becomes in using this behavior, the better is the implementation of Lean Six Sigma is what I believe. Uh, there's another set of cluster which is about achievement, which is once I have done the planning and doing everything. But I want to highlight particularly the demand for efficiency and quality as a very, when you're talking of quality and efficiency, we are talking of improving our systems, becoming more competitive. This behavior, which is taking us towards excellence, has again 3 elements, and these 3 elements are very important when you're talking of making us globally relevant to the market. Of course, there are other behaviors, which is opportunity seeking, initiative, taking that opportunity, persisting with something. I'm trying to do this, it's not happening, persisting. But after some time, I find that it's not changing, then taking a step back, trying to find a different method, finding alternate ways of doing it, taking the personal responsibility to implement it. And sometimes we have to start making a lot of sacrifices or fulfilling commitment. There, the other one, fifth behavior, which is taking calculated risks, is also a very less practiced behavior. We say we are taking risk, but are we really calculating the risk? We take a lot of risk, but not many times do we calculate the risk. We think we have calculated, but when you start to write that risk, what exactly is my measurable activity which is going? So in Lean Six Sigma, when we look at those measurements and we say that we want to change this, I will try to examine the impact of this change and what are the risks involved. If I start to examine them and I am able to get this behavior embedded in the back of my mind as a part of my habit, that any action which I take, it could have an impact in other areas, then I would be able to make this exercise quite useful and doable. So taking calculated risk is again an achievement cluster, which is something like it's above the ground. All these behaviors you can see. The planning clusters are something which are inside and not seen so much outside by somebody else. But when you start getting into the achievement cluster, others can also start seeing some things that are happening. And we'll get into the important behavior when we look at Lean Six Sigma and looking at championing excellence is where how I look at it. Doing things better, faster, and cheaper is, in other words, is getting into innovative practices, trying to find ways where I can lift the 3 vertices, which is better, faster, and cheaper at the same time. And this built on the foundational behavior of information seeking and SPM3 in particular, has a lot to do with implementation of Industry 4.0 also, because Industry 4.0 is about trying to find ways of connecting things better and improving my efficiency as well. There's a connected information, and that's a way of connecting people. So DEQ1, as we call it, does things better, faster, and cheaper. I find this as a very important behavior when we are implementing any lean practices in particular and trying to find ways where I can get this thing, uh, uh, my system being able to absorb Lean Six Sigma and bring it forward together. And the second one is one of the core principles where I'm looking at my quest for continuously lifting the quality and championing excellence. So even setting up how the implementation of 5S is an act of excellence. How, if I'm able to make it sustainable, doing 5S is one part, and to make 5S sustainable is also excellence in implementing 5S. And the way we improve product quality, way we improve communication, data management. And there was a question, so I have highlighted this, there was a question in that session, whether Lean Six Sigma can be useful in education. And later on, we can debate on this, but if we are able to improve the quality outcome, learning quality outcome of the students, and we have a measurement and dice that how do I measure learning outcome? Is it by my CGPA? Is it by employment? Is it by their personal growth? What is that? What are those elements which I will measure and put as my data point where I want to be closer and closer to that measurement? So those are all acts of doing things to meet or exceed standards of excellence. We keep on trying to move closer and closer to that whatever objective we have set. And the first two behaviors of demand for efficiency and quality are continuously moved into a system to make anything sustainable. And I have started to build a habit of practicing information seeking, planning, implementation of the systems. So how to make excellence a habit and how to develop a procedure which makes that a habit. Because every time I cannot go there and keep on telling people, oh, you need to do this, you need to, and people cannot keep on giving instructions to people to implement. And once we build that habit of absorbing this, it becomes a procedure. And that procedure helps us ensure that our work is completed in time, and we are also meeting the standards of excellence. And this transition from DQ1 to 3, based on all the previous behaviors of planning, that is goal setting, information seeking, and systematic planning and monitoring, I would try to find how to put all of this into a system where I'm able to create that habit within my enterprise, where they will then come up with and set up a procedure where they will come up with improvements by themselves. So having those competitions, having benchmarks, but instead of giving an instruction-based benchmark, if you're able to create those benchmarks derived from by them, then probably making it sustainable would be much easier, and the ownership will shift from to the individuals who are implementing it. The moment I become owner of my process, I'm sure from your experience and I'm sure of my experience that the chances of success are much higher when the onus of success is shifted to the implementer and the ownership lies with the implementer. So the program is designed by me, the procedure is designed by me. It has been designed by arriving through a process of going through all those behaviors and connecting the dots together so that I can implement Lean Six Sigma. And then comes the element of power cluster, which is having built that foundation, building that structure, your ability to see that others also are able to implement it. That's the power of persuasion and networking. Sometimes in my organization, when something is not implemented, the person will come and tell me, sir, why don't you go and help? So he'll try to use me as one of the agents will help him meet his objectives. What I will be seeing is whether his purpose aligns with the organization's purpose or not, and whether it's part of that agenda or not. And if I want to, the third is if I want to find experts and if I want to know people who can do it, I must continuously go and meet people. I should network with people. So that's also a behavior which needs to be inculcated. I cannot sit down in my room and say, oh, somebody will come and tell me and advise me. So it's not only about calmly working and sitting in the office, it also needs to step out. So today, as I have stepped out of my office from my manufacturing into a faculty development program is also part of this behavior. It's part of connecting with people who could advise me of implementing Lean Six Sigma in my own organization, because it's a case of sharing with each other. So this is one set, and the second set is it's more powerful. It's when you're very confident that this improvement will help. Sometimes you don't have all the calculations, but there's something which tells you that this improvement will help. To have that, sometimes you may have to seek autonomy, or you may need to have confidence in doing that. Or it's a very difficult subject, and you need to have a confidence in yourself to be able to implement it. This self-confidence comes from your being able to have a lot of achievement and planning behaviors behind you. If you are only saying that no, we'll do it, and with both a lot of confidence, I've seen people fall flat and not being able to do their goals, and then there's a lot of depression sometimes, or there's some difference of opinion or clashes. So why get into this? Rather than that, try to build your entire Lean Six Sigma block by block. And power is something which I have seen it use only when we are able to master the behaviors of planning and achievement. Implementing Lean Six Sigma over a period of time would not be so difficult as it appears to be today. And so these are the how it looks from my perspective. How a personal entrepreneurial competency approach of the United Nations, which talks about behaviors as the foundation for building a Lean Six Sigma or meeting excellence, whereby I can integrate into global value chains, comes from. Of course, all this information is available on their website. You go to empatech.net. Everything is available in public domain, in their publications, in their research papers. And I'll just bring back to this subject to a little more technical perspective, which we may all recognize. So Six Sigma is about precision to me, and Lean is about accuracy. So all my effort is to be as close to my target and see that my being closer to uh, my repetitiveness is better and closer to the target. So more precise and more accurate I am, the closer I am to the fulfillment of Lean Six Sigma, which probably is going closer and closer to the bullseye. So whether we talk of dispersion of data, we talk of the height of that central this curve. It may not look very exactly representative of Lean Six Sigma, but this is how I understand it. So can I have perspectives from you whether this is something which aligns from whatever you have been exchanging with each other, and if you want to understand or take some case to explain, if you can throw a problem statement, let me see if I can take you through the behaviors as an exercise. So I look for inputs from your from everybody. If there's anything which was not clear, also kindly you can ask questions as you deem fit.
Sir, no question.
Questions. So I just want to share how I have been implementing Industry 4.0 also, or IoT 4.0, and this is just an example of why when we are implementing Industry 4.0, or whether it is lean manufacturing or it is documenting processes, culture comes first. Culture is, as we are talking about behaviors, and once we have built it, getting into technology, IoT, Industry 4.0 is not very difficult. So this is, thank you so much. This is what I had to share. We can talk of behaviors for a very long time, but it would be possible to talk about behaviors if I have some inputs from your side, or some feedback, or something which, or whether this is not something which will work. I'm open to that discussion also.
Any participants? Do you have any questions? Any participants? Do you have any question? Sir, I think there is no questions.
There is a question. So what can I share with you? There is one question. What the employee should do when the management approach to it? It's a very interesting question. So see, as an employee or as an individual, let us forget whether it is an employee or an employer. As an individual, what you can do is what is in your control. I would not be able to control something else going beyond myself. So if somebody comes and tells me, and this happens to me when I'm in marketing or I'm discussing with a customer. So let us say for me, my customer is my employer and I'm an employee. And the customer says that I want such and such machine or this kind of specifications. Or he just comes and says that I want to produce this part. And there are so many unanswered questions. The first thing, earlier, before having understood this importance of communication and understanding, going deeper, so if I look from a lean perspective, I would be wasting my time sending documents, sending a revised document, but I would not be aware of the purpose of doing all that exercise. So the changed approach is that I'll first pick up my information seeking behavior and try to understand what exactly is the person doing. So if your employer gives you a certain problem statement, okay, instead of questioning or thinking that this will not happen, trying to understand why he has given that statement, either by asking him or her, and suppose there is no information available, trying to find yourself what is it that would, what this exercise would help that organization. And if you are able to, and that is your second behavior of information seeking too, which is does personal research to offer a product or service, because you have been asked to provide a product or service to your employer as an employee. You don't have, I cannot question, so I've given an objective. The best I can do is what is in my control. Okay, let me see your problem statement. I'll see it on my system.
Sir, we are having some questions in the chat box. Okay, yeah.
Right. I'm just opening that. So the first, before Mr. Abhay Nagendra Purant has asked, so just to complete that answer. So there you are saying that what the employee should do when the management is having an approach just to do it without having any guideline, correct? That means the purpose is not very clear. The goal is not very clear. So that part element on the basis of which I will be implementing the plan is not very clear. Why am I doing it? So my first job would be to try to find that out by asking them, by doing myself, or asking somebody who knows about it. Either of these three information seeking behaviors is where you will put in your, if you can put in your time and arrive at a document. And then this is another thing which I do is I'm giving a parallel with how I implement, so maybe you can relate to it. So when I don't receive full information from my customer, what I do is do my own research, put together something, and give it to share it with my customer, saying this is what I have understood. This behavior is called persuasion and networking, which is about using deliberate strategies to persuade and influence others, because I wanted to get information out of them. To get information out of them, I'll share some information with them so that I can get information. So it's using your behavioral different behaviors. I'll give an alternative and try to get feedback. But if I don't do that and I just do the work which the employer asked me to, at the end, neither he may be satisfied nor I am satisfied, and the exercise will be futile. So I would suggest to get into that loop of finding that information before you get into the achievement cluster, which is implementing that. Okay, the second question from Dr. Varalakshmi is utilization of available resources and reduce cost wherever possible in the hybrid environment, both physical and digital, in the present challenging situation. So could this question be more specific? This is a very generic question. Okay. So if I break this down, there are different elements. Utilization, so that is my efficiency. Available resources is an SPM3, means I must have the financial record of that information. To reduce cost, so I must also have the information of what I have to reduce, against what I have to reduce. So I need to collect that information, because reduction is a comparative, and for any comparative I must have the baseline. So what is it that you are trying to reduce? Again, get back into information seeking in the hybrid environment. So what do you mean by hybrid environment? Means physical and digital. What is that percentage? Is there some value? Can you, if you are able to put figures to this, this is also an information seeking behavior. I'm trying to collect this information. Once I've collected the information, then I'll see, okay, I have these available resources. If I extend the pressure on myself, I have got 4 hours and I put 6 hours, allocate 6 hours. So I have got a risk of failure. So I'll try to evaluate the risk of overloading myself. Or sometimes I may have to get into a behavior of doing a personal sacrifice or expending an extraordinary energy to complete some work. So this one statement is going through an exercise of behaviors arrive at your answer. There are no ready-made answers for anything today. Answers, in my opinion, are all derived. In philosophical, because entrepreneurship is about philosophy and psychology at the background. And if you talk of relativism as one of the core subjects of philosophy, truth, values, and knowledge will differ. My truth, values, and knowledge will differ from Professor Shruti's truth, values, and knowledge. It is necessary to understand which is the comparator, which is the reference point with which we are comparing. If I'm talking of a reducing cost, I must have a comparison point. If I'm talking of utilization, I must have some data against which I have to compare. So getting sufficient information and collecting data which is genuine, which has been personally researched. There is a lot of stress on the word personal in all this, because many times we look up at Google, take some information and go ahead with it. I would just advise that go a step back, collect your information, and then try to look at how to solve the problem. I hope that that is something which would be relevant, or if you want to ask more questions on that, please do advise. Dr. Varalakshmi, does that answer your question? You have written yes, sir. So this set of 10 competencies, I have not found any 11th competencies, neither have I found a 31st behavior till now. 2.5 years I've been practicing, and there's a way of doing it. It's all about practice. So every day I'm trying to practice what I do, understand what I do, and keep trying to understand whether. So it took me 2.5 years to understand who am I by practicing. This statement, I wish to design, engineer, and incubate solutions to address community problems, is a very small statement, but it took 2.5 years for me to understand this. It's not very easy to. Some people may find it easy. Some people got it in 1 month. Some people are still struggling. But it is our quest for finding ourselves, and our quest for finding better solutions is what drives us. So let me give you how we have been doing this at my company in Rhino Machines, just to give a perspective. So I talked about failures. So what I did in 2019 was, everybody in our organization went to the workshop. So first was making this this behavioral structure available to each and every individual in our organization. Whether they observe 1%, 5%, 20%, 90%, that was not the target. The outcome was, so steered away from the outcome biases and stayed with just working on the inputs. Having gone through that process, I started to try and understand each and every individual, the key individuals, the people working, and from the CEO to the worker at my shop floor level. The majority of the work which I do today is trying to understand people, because people know how to do the job. People understand how to improve the efficiency, and the people who are, they are the experts. I am not the expert. I cannot tell them, okay, you do the welding in this way. The person who is working on the shop floor knows how to improve the welding process. All I have to do is go and build the ownership in that worker, that you are responsible for this project or this process, and please help the organization improve. And this is the behavioral change, behavioral approach which we have taken in both our enterprises, Rhino Machines and Mimamsa. And I can share that today, if I'm talking to you while my enterprise is working, I'm able to take out time, though I am an SME, and this has been going on for the last 3 years. It's because I've started to understand that I cannot run everything, and I have to withdraw myself and make available the same behavioral approach which I would be following to my team, so that as an enterprise we can grow, and not only as an individual. We are presently hosting we have done maybe around 30-35 interns in our factory in the month of June. And instead of giving them an instruction of what to learn, which normally happens, we said, sit down, take an assignment, and you find out what you want to learn. We are not going to tell you what you need to learn because I don't know what you want to know. It's very difficult to understand. Even when I went for an internship in my college days, I did not know what I wanted to do. But when I went there, I saw things. I started to understand. Okay, I want to do this. So it's not that you need to go and teach every time. You need time to incubate them, allow them to see the space, and if the demand for learning is coming from the student, the ownership of learning shifts to the student. If you ask me how we can improve our education system, is to shift the onus of learning to the student rather than to the teacher. The teachers may as well become experts, would be available for consulting, but the responsibility of learning shifts to the student. I think it's more of a theoretical thinking which I have, but I feel that it is something which may work in the long term. If somebody can experiment on that, or we have been doing that experiment, we have been trying to do that in our enterprise. We have done that with students who come to intern. We don't give them any training. We say, okay, this is an assignment. You work with such and such person. This is a task. It's a project-based learning, and it's called learning by doing. So when you start getting inside, and there this behaviors of information speaking has to start. One of the behaviors we are trying to inculcate is if you don't ask, you will not get, and that is a very fundamental behavior of ISK, which could help them seek information rather than just getting information thrown at them. I don't know, Professor Shruti ji, this makes this can connect with what you are doing and what challenges you face in education. How does Lean Six Sigma apply to education? Is one question which was asked.
So definitely we can, there are, again, in the education system, we found lots of scope to implement this kind of Lean Six Sigma projects, especially if I'm not wrong, as per my perspective, we can implement this kind of tools and techniques majorly in the account section, because many of the students are always found difficulty while they are, it is easy to interact with the faculty, but they are always found much more non value added, wasted time to complete the documentations and all. So we can implement this kind of Lean Six Sigma in this account section. We also implement this kind of tools and techniques during our evaluation system, like many much more papers and all the paperworks and all. So we can identify, there is again, I found a lot of scope to identify various non-value added activities and can do the things smoothly. We can also think about to implementing this kind of tools and technique to attract the overseas students, that this university or particular colleges are running with global competitive standards. So according to me, this can be the...
So when you are speaking, all I'm hearing is you have said that you have found, which means you have sought information. So you used a very fundamental behavior of seeking information of what happens, where the efficiency is less, and that is how Lean Six Sigma starts with. That's
Yes.
very well put. If you know where the losses are, and you are seeking information and then trying to make a plan out of it and setting a purpose. So that's that three behaviors in the green at the bottom. If these three are articulated very well and understood very well, whatever is above that, it could, so goal setting becomes very fundamental to all this. If I'm not sure where I want to go, how will I go there? It's very fundamental. And in this, there is one more, maybe you are aware, it's called a SMART goal. specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So if a goal is not encompassing all the 5, then it's not a very strong goal. Because you said that, okay, you want to improve the accounting standard, but is it achievable? How have you de-risked that factor? How much of research has one done to ensure that that is possible to achieve? So it's not about just writing one statement, I will improve the goal accounting system. The goal statement involve covering all the 5 aspects, specific, to be very specific of what you want to do. So when Madam asked me about utilization, so it's not very specific. It's a very generic goal. If you are able to shift that to be more specific, then implementing a lean exercise will be very good. So specific and measurable, these 2 are very important in the Lean Six Sigma. Being able to de-risk the failure comes from achievable. So how much have you analyzed whether I can achieve it or not? And relevant, when I'm looking at the mission statement of, for example, your college DDIT or not. So is it personally relevant, or as an enterprise is it relevant? And the last is, do we have a timeline? Will I do it in 15 days, 3 months, 3 years? Any timeline which you think, and then you can say that your goal is wholesome. And this goal setting behavior is one of the least practiced behaviors in entrepreneurs today. If you do a research on and do a research with anybody, whether it's personally or in enterprises, and try to find out the goals of each enterprises and see if they are smart or not, you'll find this is the least practiced behaviors. Even in the gym, Protect Gym, where we practice these behaviors, this is one of the least practiced behaviors because it's the most difficult ones to arrive at a goal which is so strong. I can show you how we practice if you want. So there's a Protect gym, okay, and so whatever this is how I strengthen my behaviors, and this is how I work. See, if any activity I'm doing, and if I'm trying to look at, so this is a lean exercise of managing waste, which if I look at it from the LSS perspective, and how I can work with the community to collect waste. So I try to understand how this becomes sustainable. So my intent itself says about how to make this sustainable as an activity. And this way, practicing, I've been able to understand why behavioral analysis is so important in being able to implement Lean Six Sigma. The tools will remain where they are, but if you are able to get the people to shift into habits of using those tools, that will become also equally important. So this is all I had to share. I know there's a 2-hour session, but to talk of behaviors for 2 hours requires a lot of feedback also.
It is okay, sir. It is okay. Sir, I must have to say that we always see many numbers of pictures, like what is the difference between boss and what is the difference between leader. And today, I must have to say that I can see all the characteristics of the leader in you, sir. I can also remember our previous talk that there is a bridge between the academician and the industrialization. So today, thank you very much for this wonderful session. And I must say that you fill the gap between the whatever the theory which up till now we had discussed during this FDP, and if you really want to implement this kind of tools and techniques in the industry, then what are the suggestions how to implement it? So this is very much valuable information to every of us, that how to implement. Today you teach. Up till now we was taught about the what to do with the Lean Six Sigma, and today you say how to do with the Lean Six Sigma. Thank you very much, sir. We enjoyed a lot. We learn a lot from you, and thank you
I
very
am
much.
still available, and I see a very interesting question.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you may. Yeah.
So the question is, the real question is, the behavior of every individual in an organization, can it be changed? So would you able to talk about, Mr. Srinivas Rao, why this question, from where is this question coming from? Can you share your perspective when you say this statement? It's a very important statement.
Is it audible, sir?
Yeah, please.
Yes, sir. First of all, I would like to thank you for such an informative session. So, the real question is, sir, maybe it is faced by many individuals of an organization that it's very difficult to change the behavioral aspect of every individual to catch up the vision and mission of the organization.
Right.
I felt it, sir, because each and every individual, they have their own aspect of or thinking in their own way. That what is the need of achieving the goal of the organization and all those things. So it becomes quite difficult to change their behavior. But is it really possible? Is there any with the help of this?
My first question is,
my
first answer is also a question, is why is that changing? Why do you think we need to change the behavior? Why do you think it is the purpose will be served only when the behavior changes? Can it not work without changing the behavior? So I start from that question. So what is the impact of the person's behavior on the meeting the purpose? I don't, as I said, every individual is different. Every individual will carry their own truth, values, and knowledge. My truth will be different from your truth. Now, it is possible that the individual who is working in the organization is not aligning to the purpose of the organization. So either I should try to understand. So what I will try to understand, if I am the head of the organization, is try to understand why that individual is not able to align with the purpose. I'll not tell the person to change the behavior. I would rather try to invest my time to understand why that person is not doing this. And if he can give me some information of which can help me correct the course of my enterprise, maybe. It's not necessary that only that individual can be wrong. It may be that my purpose also is wrong. And if after a lot of persistence, if I'm able to find that we are not going to align, then it is better to part ways. It is not a long-term marriage, because for any individual to work in an enterprise, if you are looking at it from a perspective of a long-term marriage, where there'll be differences even between a husband and wife. So there'll be differences in an employee and an enterprise. So this is one part. The second part is being able to show a mirror to the individual. So when I said that I took this workshop to each and every person in the organization, there's a principle of Johari window. If you look up Johari, Johari window, it's about giving feedback and taking feedback. The more I become transparent, the more is the possibility that I'll get information. So the more I give, the more I get. So to understand that individual, I have to start interacting. I have to share my vulnerability. I have to share what I know with them and understand what is it that stops them. And if I've invested my time in the individual of trying to understand, or if I'm able to understand what are the areas where that individual is not strong enough, I will help build those areas. First, help identify. So again, it's goes back to that information seeking of where that individual is strong, where the individual is focused, or where he may realize that I can correct unless the individual finds the reason himself or herself to change. I don't think we can enforce behavioral change. Behavioral change has to come from inside the person, not from outside. Very few people would take it from outside. Uh, and I have not found it very easy when we try to ask somebody to change. Immediately, it may get into the person may get into a rebel mode and not accept it.
Sir,
I don't. Yes, please.
sir, can I just add a point to validate what you said, sir, about the transparency and give first and then expect next?
Yes. So
I
let me
have a
let
small
me show you.
I have a small example for that. In one of the companies, we implemented Lean in a couple of companies in Coimbatore. I am from Coimbatore, and a
Yeah.
couple of companies we implemented. And one of the company, actually, there was a huge success story. Now, the reason was the CEO actually met all the employees before the start of implementing Lean. He called all the employees, stopped production as such. He explained that this is what we are going to do. And then he didn't stop there. When other companies stopped there, he said, he had previously recruited a team to identify what is the cost that is happening for every product. He projected that and then said, okay, this is what the costing is today, and this is how much we produce. Exactly 1 year from this particular date, we will do the same measure again. Now, whatever is the increase, it can be in the production increase or it can be cost saving. Like 40% will be retained by the company, 60% will be given back to all the employees. Now here it was very transparent system. Employees did all that accounting and found out what is the cost involved and how much of cost saving. And the employees had a motivation that 60% of the saving is going to be shared among employees, which they found very interesting. Although it was only for the first year, but still that was a very good giving back to them, which motivated them.
Thank you so much for that contribution, and it is very important for maybe I must have missed this. There is a very strong bias which we might fall for, which is called an outcome bias over here. And well, there are 30 behaviors which are there to build a system. There are 188 cognitive thinking errors which are there to break the system. And maybe later on I can share that link with you. See, incentivizing is important. Right? It is again motivating somebody. But how to make a sustainable incentive? Because once I have gone for this incentive exercise, the next time I am building an expectation that if there is any improvement, I will be part of that incentive. And it's a self-defeating exercise over a period of time. It's not very easy to sustain an incentive-driven drive. And therefore, we did think of this a lot. And after studying a lot of incentive-based operations, unless and until I've gone through that entire understanding of individuals at a behavioral personal level, entering into any such agreement, I must know the exit plan also, because there's a risk associated. I must be very clear this will be only one time, or it can. So complement these behaviors with the other behaviors is very important in implementing such exercises. And that's where this Johari window concept will also be very important. See, this window is talking about information which both of us know. Before I entered the room, you did not know my name. So Shruti shared my name or my background, and so you now know about me. So the information has shifted inside. Okay, this is information which is known to you, known to me. There's an information which is blind, which people know about you. Information about you that you don't know, but others know. And if you read, there's a story called Bad Odor Effect, where people will know about the bad odor coming from your body, but you might not know it. So, are you open to take the feedback? And are you having that emotional intelligence of or self awareness and self regulation to accept feedback? Is where you have to work. So, if you are able to take feedback, you are able to grow, make this window. You are able to extend this because you keep on getting more information. And then you have the hidden self, which my cards are closed. No, my cards are not open. I'm not transparent. Transparency comes from here. So this is transparency of myself, and this is transparency of the other person. The more and more you stretch this window, the better you'll find the performance. So in your case, if the owner had shared with the, because he has been transparent about sharing the earning, probably has opened both the windows, and that's why you moved one step. But at the same time, you must also understand the risks associated with this. So Johari window is a very well-researched principle which you can look at. And when you're implementing Lean Six Sigma, getting information from people is about getting feedback. And I might not know that there can be a process information, so I'm including people who are working in the shop floor, is trying to open the blind window. So these are philosophy and psychology are deeply rooted in whatever we do. And that is why UNCTAD says that culture before business. First culture, then business. Because if I am able to understand the philosophy and psychology behind the business, then everything else becomes easier. So I hope I can relate this to this question.
Thank you, sir. True, sir. Very true.
So I'm available there. Any questions? It's not that I'll run away. My time has been allotted.
Yeah. Any questions? Any questions? Any suggestions? Anything?
I'll show you one more thing which is I don't know how many of you might have seen this. Okay. So when my Lean Six Sigma is successful, I land into this happy moment. Ikigai is a philosophy, Japanese philosophy. You can look it up. And the entire exercise of behavioral analysis is to find the center of happiness as an individual, as an enterprise. So the question which you ask, if the employee's behavior is not balanced, first I'll try to find out what does that employee love, what is he good at, and whether this world is replaced by the enterprise, whether the enterprise needs those two elements, and whether I can pay him for it. If I'm able to balance these four circles, probably I'll be able to implement Lean Six Sigma. So two philosophical perspectives, Johari window and Ikigai, and you look at those 30 behaviors, you'll find a lot of relevance. And when Shrutiji, you say that you want to reduce the waste in accounting time, it is because you have a passion or a love for your students to get educated and spend more time in education. And that is what drives you to think about it. So if you are able to try to, if you are missing any of those four, you'll find there is statements which you can relate to. I don't have to explain them, but you might take time to think about it. And all the exercise which we do or trying to find the purpose is about finding one's center of happiness.
Sir, could you please show the Johari window once again, sir? Thank you, sir.
And this is so these are the this if you go to Empretech, you'll find all the publications here. This also has the policy guide on youth entrepreneurship, which could be useful for colleges. The policy framework, how to integrate developing countries into global value chains. There's a lot of literature available which could be useful. And another interesting, when you're talking of Lean Six Sigma and aligning to global standards, is trying to understand the international standards of accounting and reporting. And this has a direct relation to the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN. And there are 31 indicators over here, which you can find those documents, which go across economic, social, institutional, and these indicators are able to help us understand and give us a direction. For example, for economic indicators, I would have reducing my inventory turnaround ratio, right? ITR as they call it. Now, ITR has a direct connection to Lean Six Sigma. Everything which I do today in my company is related to this indicator called ITR, or second is account receivable turnover. So being able to link this international standards, being able to link these international standards, which are recognized globally, they have been well researched, and using my set of behaviors to arrive at it, and setting up the processes to reach there. Setting up what do I have to do to implement it is what I am focused as an SME today to implementing Lean Six Sigma without using all those names, without using all the acronyms, but building this into the DNA of our team, injecting habit formation habits into the DNA of our team. So website empretech.net I already given, so you can go there and you can get all this information from there. So if I'm able to reach out to you in 60 minutes, then also it's a lean exercise.
Yeah.
From 2 hours to 1 hour.
Sir, but in this 1 hour, we learn a lot from you, sir. So again, thank you very much, sir, to teach us what to do and how to do. Thank you so much, sir.
I am most welcome, and I am always available. My numbers are with Shruti. My email ID is there. Anytime you need any input, any information, visit to the industry, interaction with the industry, please feel free to connect with me. And I'll share my number here.
Thank you, sir.
And just to show you, so these are the different areas where I work. One is in foundry machines, second is in textile, this is in waste, this is in education, and this is in capacity building. But all are connected with each other. So thank you very much. So can we maybe close the session if there is no other-
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Our next session, the valedictory function and feedback session, will be started at 2:30. I requested all the participants to be in this link sharp at 2:30. Thank you so much for your kind cooperation. Thank you very much, sir.